In this presentation, we will enter the purchase of raw materials on account within QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Desktop. Here we are in QuickBooks in our fourth practice problem related to class tracking for our job costing system. We currently have the open windows open. You could open the open windows by selecting the view dropdown and the open windows list. Let's take a look at our objective by going to our Excel sheet. We're currently on the 1.7 tab. So as we consider the 1.7 tab, notice what we're not going to do. We're going to alter this a little bit from the prior problem. What we're not going to do is be recording our materials into the materials inventory and then distributing them. What we're going to assume then is that we're purchasing our materials and assigning them to the cost of the job as they are being purchased. So once again, we're kind of simplifying the problem, not going through another kind of basically balance sheet account. And rather than doing that, we're going to be considering we're more on just kind of a just-in-time type of system. We're buying the materials, applying them to the job as we purchase them for that. And that'll kind of simplify the system so that we're not putting them through an inventory method and then somehow allocating that out. So what we're going to do then is we're not going to do the first journal entry, which is basically putting it into this inventory account, but just going to be putting them straight to the job. So we're going to say here that we're going to be purchasing items on account. They're going to be the inventory items, and then we're going to have to make our journal entry, which is going to be increasing the cost of goods sold because these items are going to be used directly for the jobs. We're not putting them to the work in process, but instead expensing them at purchase and then assigning them to the cost of goods category, job category. As we do so, the credit is going to go to accounts payable. Then we need to support this number in the cost of goods sold with the job costs sheet, which as in the past will be done with job 14, allocating the 100 to it. Job 15, we're going to allocate the 170. Job 16, the 80. If we add those three up, that's going to be adding up to the 350. Now, as we do this, we're going to basically kind of random, we're not going to put just a generic category like we did with the beginning balances, but allocate them out, if I go back to the example tab, with the accounts that we set up here. So I'm going to kind of randomly allocate these. Obviously, if we purchased this in real life, we would know what the allocation was, and we can allocate this out. I'm going to kind of pick these accounts and randomly allocate them as we go so we can see how this process will look. Going back to 1.2, so that's going to be our process here. We're going to do this with a bill, just a normal kind of transactions within QuickBooks. The only thing different here is now we're going to assign out the jobs as we go. So let's do that. We're going to go back to QuickBooks, and all we're going to do is enter a normal bill. Nothing unusual about that. We haven't paid it yet, therefore we're going to enter the bill. What does the bill do? It increases the accounts payable, and then the other side's going to go wherever we need to put it. The difference here is that we're not going to be using the items tab. We're just going to be using the expense tab and then assigning the class. So that's going to be the difference that we will have. We're going to say that we're making the purchase from Home Depot. And I'm going to say this happens on the 7th, I believe it was. The 7th, let's double check that because I just want to double check. Yep, the 7th. And then we're going to go through here and say that, let's go right to our expenses. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And the amount doesn't need to be that big, right? So let's do that. Okay, and then I'm going to go into our categories, and we're going to select the drop down, and I'm just going to basically choose our direct materials expense category. So I've got the cement, so I'm going to go back up top, pick that item, and then we're going to go to the amount. I'm going to choose for job 14 here. So for job 14, I need to get up to the 100,000. So that's what I'm going to shoot for to get to the 100,000. I'm just going to kind of randomly allocate it to these different expense items to get there. So we're going to say that this is going to be, let's say 30,000. And we're going to say that this is the customer job for number 14. And actually, we don't need the customer job here. Well, we could assign the customer job. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to kind of help us with the billing. We'll see this gives us a bit of a little issue at the end. So we'll assign the customer job here. Our goal isn't to really use the job costing sheet to do this, like the reports we saw last time, but to help us with the invoicing process. And we'll see that at the end. So we'll assign it to job 14, and then the class is going to be 14 as well. Next, we're going to say the next expense category. We're going to go to this one, and we're going to say this is going to be 8,000. And we could actually put these in the memo too. If I was to copy basically the cement, I think this could be useful to see it in the memo. And then if I was to copy this item and see that in the memo, I might not do this every time, but that might be useful. 14, and then we're going to go to job number 14. The next item we're going to choose is going to be this one. This is going to be, let's say, 5,000. I'm going to put this in the memo, so I'm going to copy this and put that in the memo. Job number 14 and job number 14. And not a new job, but the 14 in the drop down here. And then we're going to go to the next item, which is going to be the flooring. Let's put this on the books at 15,000. I'm going to copy the flooring here. I'm going to copy this and say we want that to be there. And number 14 is the job, and then 14 here. And the next item we're going to be using is the marble. Let's put this on the books for 6,000. I'm going to copy the marble. So we'll copy that and put that here. Job 14 and 14 job here. And for class or job, same kind of usage we're using. And then we're going to use the material other, no, the paint. Paint, and I'm going to copy the paint and put that here. And let's say that is 2,000. And that's going to be job number 14 and job 14. And notice these both things, this says job up top. And again, this is for the billing job. This is actually a class, which we call the job. The classes, of course, we're using in the format of jobs. And then I'm going to select the drop down, and we have the plaster. So the plaster, and then I'll copy this for the plaster. And then, well, let's put that on the books for 3,500, let's say. Plaster is here. We're going to put this on 14, and then 14 again. And then let's select the next item, which is going to be this staff. Let's put that on for 2,500, and that's going to be the staff. So we'll copy that and put that here and put that under 14 and 14. Not a new 14. I want the 14 on the drop down on the job. And then we're going to copy another one, or the next one is going to be the wall covering. Let's put that on the books for 10,000, and that's going to be the wall covering. So I'm going to copy this, and that'll be the wall covering here. We're going to put that on 14 and 14 there as well. Next item is going to be the wood finishing, and that's going to be 12,000. And we're going to say that's the wood finishing. I'm going to copy that, put that here, and then put that on 14 and 14 here. And not a new 14, but the same 14. So there we have that. And then I'm going to put the difference into that other account. So I'm going to say the difference is going to go to the materials other. And then I'm going to say that's going to be equal to the 100,000 minus the 94,000, which is going to give us the 6,000, which I probably could have, calculated that. And then we're going to say that's going to be the materials, and that's going to be 14 and 14. So again, obviously I kind of randomly selected these items, but note that you could basically apply these bills out and get the more detailed category in doing so. Now I'm gonna make a separate bill for each one, because that'll make it easier for us to assign out the different categories here. So you could make one bill and then assign out the other class, right? I could make one bill for the whole 350 and then assign out the classes. So if you have to do that, that's okay. Just be careful on where you're assigning out the classes. If we make a new bill here, it'll make it a little bit easier. So if I enter 3 bills, it'll make it a little bit easier for me to just tie out to the totals and make sure I have the correct jobs tied out. So that's what I'll do here. So I'm going to say save and new. And we're going to say okay. And this is going to be Home Depot again. And note now that it basically saved our accounts, which is kind of nice. So now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say that we need 170. So let's go with 20,000 here. This is going to be job 15 and job 15 here. Tabbing through this, we're going to say this is 14,000 here I'll go back and copy all these over next time. So let's see if this is a little faster. This is going to be job 15 here and job 15 here. Then I'm going to say this is 8,000, job 15 here, job 15 here. We're going to say that this is going to be 35,000, job 15 here and 15 here. Not that 15, but 15 the job. And then we're going to say this is 27,000. I'm going to say 15 here and 15 here. And then we're going to say this is going to be the 38,000. We're going to say 15 here and the 15 here. And then I'm going to pick this up at 9,000. I'm going to say 15 here and 15 here. And then we'll pick this up at 6,000. Going to give the 15 here and 15 here. And then we'll pick this up at the, let's say, 2,000, 15 here and 15 here. And then I'm going to pick this up at, let's say, 7,000. And we'll say 15 here and 15 here. And then we'll put the difference, which is going to be the 170. So I'm going to say this is going to be 170 minus the 166. That's going to give us the 4,000 and 15 here and 15 here. Again, notice I made it work to go into the categories, but if you have the actual bill, then you can apply it out to whatever it needs to be in a similar type of format. I'm going to go through and copy these out because I think it'll help us when we make the invoice. So I'm going to copy and say that I want this here. I would like to copy and put this in the memo there, and I'd like this in the memo over here. I'd like this in the memo, if that would be okay. The flooring, the whole thing. Flooring, please. Include that as well. Then we want the marble. Whoop, that wasn't good. Oh, no. So direct materials on the flooring. I'm going to select, oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Actually, this was under the flooring. This is going to be the marble. There we go. Okay. So then I'm going to copy that, put that there, and then we're going to copy this and put this here, and then I'm going to copy this and we'll put that here, and then so on and so forth. Hopefully this will be worthwhile when we make the invoice. It'll make it all pull together and make sense. And so we'll put that here. We got the wood. We'll put that here. We've got the material other, which we'll put here. That adds up to 170. It's applied to a job. Let's do this one more time. Save and close. Yes. And then job number 16. I should have said save and new, but we'll go to job 16, which is 80,000. We'll open up the bill once again, and it's going to be going to Home Depot. So Home Depot still pulls up all of our accounts, which is very nice. And then we're going to say this is 20,000. This is going to be for job 16 here, job 16 here. We're going to say this is for 15,000. This is going to be for job 16 here and job 16 here. We're going to say this is 10,000. We're going to give the job 16 here and job 16 here. Not 16, that's 16. Whoop, I don't want to set that up. 16. And this is going to be, let's say, 21,000. Job 16 here and job 16 here. We'll say this is 11,000. And we'll say this is job 16 here and 16 here. And then we're going to say this is going to be equal, I think 80,000 was the total minus the 77,000. And that's the 3,000. 16 here and 16 here. Whoop, not that 16. 16. So there we got. Now we got the 80,000 here. Applied these out, and that matches our 80,000 over here. So that looks good. Let's do our memo thing real quick. I'm just going to copy the memo. Copy. Memo. Copy. Memo. Copy. And then the memo. Copy. And then the memo. And then the marble. Copy. and then the memo, and one more time we get to do this because it's good times. And then we have the paint, copy, and then the memo. All right, now we're going to say save and close, and let's see what it does. We'll say save and close, okay, and save anyway. And then we're going to go back to our classes. Hopefully I assigned them all to a class. Let's go to the reports drop down. Let's first take a look at our trial balance. If I go to the accounting and taxes and the trial balance, then we change the record to 010120 to 123120, and then we have our trial balance. We have all these laid out down here in the direct materials. Now it's more useful now to look at the profit and loss report to see kind of the details because we want to see those subcategories. So if I go to the reports drop down, company and financial, profit and loss by class, changing the dates up top from 010120 to 123120. There we have the profit and loss by class. And so look how, you still have the standard profit and loss. If I want to just see basically the totals, then we have the totals here. It's broken out all in the direct materials. There's the direct materials. And then I want to see it basically broken out by the job cost sheets. What's in the job cost system. I open this back up and I can say, all right, there, this is going to be the detail for job 14, 15, and 16. The total for direct materials, 100, 14, 170, 15, and 16 is 80, right? And that's going to be the same here. So we've got the 100 for the current time period, not including the beginning balance, the 170 and the 80 here. And so there we have that. And then we can see the more detail here. If I go to the more detail, then we see the more detail. Now, of course, we want to see the entire job too. So these two jobs, notice, had some that was done in 2019. If I want to see the whole job, I can just like I can with the other job cost report, bring this back to 2019, where all the open jobs are open, and then I can see everything that's been open through that time period once again. And so I can go back in here and say, there's the direct labor, there's the materials for job 14 and 15. And then I can see the totals, which are now at the 114, right? If I collapse these back down again, we see the totals now 18, 114, and 9. So this is the 114, 18, and 9. And then we see the job 15 at 16, 188, 16, 188, and 8. So, I really kind of like the format of this report. It's almost easier to navigate than the job report. Now, what we don't have here, of course, is the estimate versus the actual. You'd have to do the estimate in some other fashion. So that's going to be kind of a drawback. But if you're doing the estimates in some other way anyways, then this is kind of a pretty straightforward, nice report to navigate through, given the collapsible columns, the not having to deal with the estimate versus actual, and the collapsible collapsible rows and the collapsible columns. So that gives us our information. Now, if I run, we have the same kind of issue where we want to run the jobs for the entire time period that are going to be open and be able to reconcile to see if we can, adjust this to an accrual method or completed contract or percentage of completion. Just like we did before, we've got that same kind of issue. Everything that's in the job cost sheet here for the open jobs that have been open through the current time period, we want to see the entire job, and then we can go back and do our reconciliation. If I go back and then think about our reconciliation, we could say that this is the amount of the open jobs, all the open jobs at the point, and this is going to be the 433, and then that's going to be different than the current open jobs, which if I run this for the current time period, which is 010120, right? The current open jobs and the cost of goods sold is only the total of the 350, and the difference between those two is the 83,000, which are the open jobs as of the end of last period that were still open during the current period, 2020. So that's what we would need to know in order to basically reconcile that out. If you look at QuickBooks, then how can you see that in QuickBooks? Well, we can run this report for 010119 to 013119, and then see the open jobs as of the end of, let's not 01, 123119, and then we can see the open jobs as of the end of the prior period. So this is the part of job 14 and 15 that was open last time period that adds up to 83,000. Once that was closed out, it closed out to the equity account. So that's the kind of reconciling entry we would need. That's what the number we would need in order to reconcile if we wanted to change basically the timing differences to an accrual basis, completed contract, or some kind of percentage of completion. That's the adjusting entry kind of information, that the type that we would need to do.